All right, everyone, this is what you have been waiting for. I've been telling you about this for over a month. So we have Ambirge in the house. So first, let me give you a little intro. About 7 years ago is when I signed up for Ash's email list. And I have read, and I know, Ash, you've heard this before. I have read literally every single email that has come into my inbox from Ash, every single one. And I cannot say that about any other email that comes in. In addition, I have read her new book, which we're going to be talking about today, cover to cover. And I have not read a book outside of something having to do with the body or the thyroid or health in like 15 or 20 years. First book in 20 years, cover to cover. Here it is.
Amazing.
Yay.
That's so cool.
So Ash is an absolute brilliant writer, brilliant copywriter, powerhouse entrepreneur. And I am just blessed to have her in the house for this interview today. So Ash, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Amie, like you and I feel like should have met in person by now. It's been a while, right?
Yep.
I feel like I know you, even though I don't know you. And I'm sure you feel like you now know me because reading that book is like, you know me my whole life after you read that book.
I do. I totally do. And you're just on the other side of the state. So
that's right. I forgot about that. Where are you, Erie?
I'm in Erie. Yep. So we'll have to meet in like Breezewood or something.
I love taking that road trip out there. It's nice. Yeah, I'm here in Philly. You're on the other side.
Exactly.
Rainy and awful here today.
Yeah, I know. It's snowing here. So at least you guys got rain. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, we get to know you in this book. So I'm not going to go in too much of your past because people can get the book and read it and just listen to read your amazing stories. But there's a couple that are really significant. And like I said earlier, I'm sure you've been answering the same questions all week long, but these people haven't heard this yet. So I think it's relevant to go into.
Totally.
You literally started from your car at the age of 21. Long story short, you lost both of your parents and you made your first big time bucks from your car, right?
Essentially, yes. My first $100,000 after going from sitting in my car in a Kmart parking lot with 26 and no savings and maxed out credit cards. Yes.
That's absolutely. And it came from hearing that Rihanna was pre-selling her album.
It was. I was in a position, I had made some very poor financial decisions, as you do when you are searching for yourself. And I was doing that. I was really determined to figure out what it meant to live a good life and do work that you were proud of. So I had kind of been job hopping around, trying to figure it out, experimenting with my life left and right. And I made some bad decisions. And so I ended up having to go and sleep in my car. And I think that in the situation that I was in, I had more integrity doing that than anything else, but it forced me to either sink or swim. And that was the day when I was like, okay, I got to swim. So how are we going to do that?
Right.
Most people, I think, would turn to something that they could sell, something physical, maybe some bonds or some family jewels. Didn't have those things. Couldn't even turn in my car because it was upside down on the loan. And so that was when I started realizing in that moment that I might not have had anything physical to sell, but what I did have were my ideas. And I thought about a book and I thought about, gosh, that's what books are, aren't they? They're ideas packaged for sale. And the publishing industry is pretty darn huge, right?
True.
And I got my start as a writer by just deciding I was going to be one that day.
That's so amazing. And that just builds upon, you talk about having that radical self-reliance in your book. And I can relate to this. I can relate to you on so many levels, but I can relate to this because I started my business at 23. And back then there was no fear. There was no imposter syndrome. There was no thinking about the risks of starting your own business. It was just like, well, what the hell? I guess I'll start my business. But that's not common for most people, right?
Yeah, I agree. I work with women now. I mean, fast forward 11 years, I work with women in particular around the world who, they have access to tools. They know exactly that they need to build an email list, for example. But the piece that is always difficult is the mental and the emotional. And am I good enough to be doing this? Who am I to do this thing? What if I do it? And what if it doesn't work out? Am I wasting my time? Am I being a fool? So a lot of what I write in the book addresses the internal.
Absolutely. And your emails have built up to that. So through the years, you've been giving me courage. And honestly, I mean, how we really, really connected this past year is through you. I decided to build a digital course, which I'm launching next month. And I give the credit to you. It was your emails basically giving me courage and strength. And can you imagine if you did that to me through emails, what this book is going to do to women everywhere? We're all going to be doing hard things.
I really hope so. I do hope so. When I was young, all I really wanted and wished I had, at least in retrospect now, was a mouthy big sister to help me figure this stuff out. I didn't have parents left over. I didn't have anyone to ask, what should I be doing with my life? And how do I do this thing right? And so that's what this book is. I've figured a lot out over 10 years, especially when it comes to being creative with your work and your career and how to make a hell of a lot of money doing that.
I think that's awesome. And it's going to encourage people. So like you said, your audience consists mostly of women. I mean, there's guys that follow you too, and they're going to get a lot out of this as well. I'm going to actually make my boyfriend read this book, but hands down, absolutely, hands down.
Sorry in advance, boyfriend.
Yeah. But I'll tell you about him in a second because he plays into the dream zappers, but we'll get to that in a moment. But no, you have mostly women and really you're telling them reject the world's expectations of success. And I really want to ask you this question. I think a lot of people have the mindset that successful people have come from money, marry into money. So, but that's not the case. And you're living proof of that. So what have you found working with people?
You know what? I think the most dangerous position to be in is actually when things are pretty good and they're decent. I run into this a lot with teachers in particular, because teachers in particular, they get the summers off. They're out at 3:00. They've got great benefits. Life is on easy streak. So it becomes more difficult. And I mean, as opposed to being someone like me who had to hit rock bottom to figure it out,
right?
It's more difficult when actually things are pretty good, but they're not great. And everyone around you tells you that you should be grateful for what you've got. So whatever you've built, wherever you're starting from, I think the harder part is realizing that you can have whatever you want, but you have to also know what it is that you don't, and you have to be willing to choose. That's the hardest thing to do.
It is. And I think fear holds people back. So like when you're saying about, you can have whatever you want, I think people don't believe that deep down. And this book really makes you think, and you have these moments as you're reading it that you go, oh yeah, I can do that. That's right.
Yeah, I think that, gosh, we don't give ourselves enough credit one bit. We are so capable. I always love this exercise. So I imagine if you are sitting there and you're like, gosh, I just kind of feel like an imposter. Who am I to? I'm not sure if I should really do this thing. Imagine yourself walking into a courtroom and imagine the side of you that's like, gosh, I really want to do it, over here. And then on the other side, is the side of you that's going like, well, here are 1,000 reasons why I'm not qualified to do this thing. And you're pretty much in court against yourself. The judge is going to look at the evidence, and the evidence is going to show all the things that you have accomplished, that you actually are great at, that you know how to do, that you are not giving yourself enough credit for, that you forget about because we cannot see ourselves objectively. So he's going to look, or she's going to look at the evidence and be like, you know what? Sorry. Get your ass in the ring because you are more than competent. We can't do that though. But look at the evidence, you guys. You're so smart. It's amazing.
That's fantastic. And I think everyone needs to hear that. And one thing I definitely want to touch on, kind of expanding on that topic, your PSA, your public service announcement to women to make your own money. And let me tell you, I run into this in my business all the time. When I talk to women, they come to me when they're at their lowest, they're crashing. I mean, very similar to women that you work with that want to achieve, that they have this dream in mind, they have their goals in mind, but they have to ask their husband for permission. And I understand there's some respect there, but also it's like, really, you have to ask your husband for permission to get your life back, to make yourself better, to achieve your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart. It does. I think I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who are so creative and free-spirited inside, and they've lost a little bit of themselves because of just the daily rigmarole that is routine and then expectations from other people being placed on your shoulders day after day after day. And it's something I talk about in the book is this weird sense of freedom that I felt after losing everything, because it was the first time when I had no obligations to anybody else except for myself. And I had to think of myself first. There was no exceptions to be made. I had to. And it was this feeling of just like liberation all of a sudden. I could really just focus on what I wanted to build. And I wanted to be a writer and I was going to do it. And it didn't matter at that point. There was no keeping up with the Joneses. Who cares? I had to dig myself out. There is so much beauty in loss that we forget about and hardship. That night in the Kmart parking lot was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think a lot of people have to get to that point, but then at the same time, like you talk about in your book, that attitude of wanting to play it safe, that again, you'll have the I guess the counter argument to what you just said of women saying, but I have families, but I have a family, I have kids, I have a husband, I have a mother to take care of. So they stay in, like you say, they stay in jobs, they stay in relationships, they stay in boring lives, and they pray to get run over by a tractor trailer.
I might have wrote that in the book.
It might be in there.
Gosh, yes, we are prisoners in our own lives. And I think that it's surprising sometimes after that initial conversation that you have with your loved one, let's say, that this is a thing that you're going to do. And after that awkward, hard part happens and you actually start doing the thing, you become someone that everybody likes way more. I mean, you become someone who is doing something admirable. So you respect your own self, and that just trickles to everybody else. I always think about this with children. I don't have any children, but I would want to be a good role model for them. So what does that look like to you? And how can you be that? And I think there's so many ways to be that, but also for yourself. What does it look like to be a person that you actually admire? It's a question that bears repeating. Like, what does it look like to be someone you admire? We go through life so fast. We're used to being just managed and corralled and being told what to do. We don't even stop to think about it. What do you actually want? When you start going in that direction, I think you might face some pushback from people at first and yourself. But at the end of the day, you're going to be awesome and you're going to like yourself a lot more and everything else will benefit.
Absolutely. You just nailed it. You nailed it. And I think that message speaks to so many people. And from there, we can talk about the dream zappers because it's all intertwined. When you have that first conversation with your loved one, no matter who it is, it could be your spouse, it could be your boyfriend, it could be your mom. You might have some, like you call them, dream zappers in your life. We've all had them. Years ago, my mom wanted me to become a drug rep. And even recently, here's where he comes in. My boyfriend has said at some point, why don't you just teach? It's a reliable paycheck. But I will tell you, Ash, recently, because he's seen me struggle, he's seen me hustle, he's seen me explode. And now that he's seeing the business explode and expand, he says, well, I had no idea how much an entrepreneur could make. I was taught that you get a job, you get a pension. That's what you do. Yeah. And, it's kind of not his fault. It's not these dream zapper people's fault because maybe they were taught this is what you do. You go to get a job and you have a picket fence and you have a family and get a pension and then you die.
Yes. I mean, I think there's two camps, right? You've got the well-meaning ones that we're talking about who, gosh, everyone wants to ask their sister Sarah what she thinks. And I know that that's traditional. It's customary to ask your family what they think, but you wouldn't go to the accountant for highlights. And I think it's important to remember that if your sister Sarah works in data entry for some big conglomerate, she's not qualified to advise you on your aspirations in photography. You have to consider the source, and you have to go to people who are doing the thing that you want to do. Ask their advice. Sister Sarah, she'll like it when you're making money. She won't doubt you anymore when you're making money, and that will come. But don't what's the phrase? Spite your nose? Is that?
Yeah. Put up your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, like before you even get started, it's so difficult. And then you've got the other camp of dream zappers, which are the ones who they're a little bit bitter because by saying to someone else, hey, I want something different than this, you're effectively saying to them, hey, I'm judging you for staying the same. That's a hard thing because it is this dynamic that you will have with people. And those require delicate conversations. But I was told in the beginning too, everyone rolled their eyes at me for writing on the internet like a Looney Tune. Yeah, who does she think she is? I'm from a small town in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. Who does she think she is? I would go back, people would whisper about me. It wasn't always kind. And sometimes people would say to me, right to my face, I remember this one friend I had saying to me, I just don't understand why anyone follows your blog. I mean, everything you write is just common sense. Maybe I should start a blog. And I was like, gosh, you're so awful.
That's so bad.
It's normal. You're going to face this, and you just have to have a little bit more interior strength to just go through because follow your own voice. Stop listening to everybody else's.
Right. Right. So I was going to ask you, how do you deal with the dream zappers? But basically, yeah, get more fortitude, get a thicker skin.
I mean, look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's no way that you can put yourself in a bubble. But one thing that I think is really good advice that I follow as a general rule now when it comes to anything I'm doing, it actually originally applied to the idea of marketing, but I think it applies here nicely too. And that is your new goal is to make 50% of the population hate you. We are all trying to make everyone like us, but that's not effective in marketing. It's not effective when you write a book, when you have to share a message with the world, when you have something to say, not effective. You need to think about how you can make 50% of the population hate you. So the same thing applies when you are going out and doing big things. Just count on 50% of the people you know hating what you're doing.
I love that. So I was debating on whether to tell you this or not, but this is the perfect lead in. So I think I finally made it, right? And I've been blasting this interview, your book, promoting it up and down, and we're going to keep doing it after this interview.
Thank you.
But of course, the email I sent out yesterday was giving you the middle finger. And of course, I had someone take offense, and I got a long email about how I'm unprofessional and I should have someone read my emails before I send them out.
Oh, so
and I thought to myself, Ash will be proud. She'll be so proud.
Oh gosh, we get emails like that sometimes too. Although I will say, having a brand called the Middle Finger Project pretty quickly filters it out. I used to be bothered by those. I used to get those and it would make me second guess myself. But what I've come to discover is that there are lots of weirdos out there. If you take a walk down the street, start to think about the people you're going to encounter. You'll encounter some really nice people, some smart people, some quiet people, some loud people, and you will also encounter some verifiably crazy people that, never stop talking and don't take a social cue, and they really have some weird problems going on. That's not to be mean. It's just to say, if you took a sample of your outside, wherever you are, that person's going to be there. So I like to think that when that person emails me, it's that guy on the street who's really got something going on. And I'm not going to take it as personally if you could see them in the flesh as opposed to in an email. It's the same person. Don't worry about it.
And if you have haters, it means you're successful. Like you said earlier, 50% people disagree with what you're doing, then you're doing it right.
Yeah. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people making, I mean, just because we're all human, is putting too much weight on everybody else's emails and their comments and what else is going on. I mean, like, just get out there. Just do your best work. Stop it. Stop worrying about all these other things and looking at everybody else's things. Stop it. You don't have time for that. Just get out there and do your best work. Focus on that. People will follow you. Doing your best work is a form of leadership, and it's beautiful. The rest of everybody else who has time to be writing you that email in their box, they're mad because they're not successful. And I can guarantee it, because successful people don't have time to write those things.
It's so true. That is so true. We don't have time at all. Not at all.
It's true. It's true. So just consider the source again. All the dreams evers, consider that source.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Did you see me just get heated there? I was like,
that's okay. I am too. I'm good. So in your book, I mean, the title of the book is Trash Your Imposter Syndrome and Live the Unfuckwithable Life You Deserve. I said that right, actually.
Hell yeah, girl. Woo! You did it.
So talk about imposter syndrome. You call it the mean girl at the party who we hate, but we've all experienced it. So elaborate on that.
Yeah, man. Listen, like imposter syndrome, I think we all know what it is, but just to say briefly, it is that feeling when you kind of feel like you've been let in the door, you snuck in, and any minute now, someone's going to realize that you don't belong and you're not actually qualified and you don't know what you're doing. And they're going to be like, and all of your dreams are going to come tumbling down and shattering around you. You just don't feel good enough ever. You don't feel qualified ever. There's always this nagging feeling that you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I have news. If you're doing it right, that will be with you for the rest of your life, because as you grow as a person and as you keep leveling up and doing more exciting things every single day, you shouldn't feel totally at ease. You'd be a sociopath.
Very true.
Right? So I think that this is a good sign that you're doing things that are worthy of you and your attention. It's wonderful. I signed books in Barnes & Noble on Fifth Avenue the other day. And I remember having that feeling for a minute when people are staring at me in the bookstore. And I'm kind of like, oh no, is someone going to ask me about this? Or are they going to be like, hi, what's your book about? And I'm going to have to answer them. It's scary. People that don't actually know me. This is terrifying. But it's a good sign. I don't think any person in the world would tell me, you know what? Yeah, you shouldn't have really published that book. That was dumb. No.
No, because people have dreams of publishing a book. So no one would tell you that. But I think we all have imposter syndrome at one point or another, because you hit a point where you go, yeah, but I'm not like that person, but I'm not like that person. You're not supposed to be. Yeah.
For me, this always comes back to remembering and just reframing it, that your job is not to be the best in the world. Your job is to simply make the most honest contribution that you can with what you know right now. That's it. You might know more later and you might be better at it later. But if we're using the metric of what you know right now, using that to contribute an honest contribution to the greater conversation around this thing, that is all you need to do. This is a form of helping. This is a generous act for you to be doing. I think if you were sitting around on your sofa, not contributing anything, that would be problematic. But you are trying and you are working to do something that you're proud of. And I think that that is the most noble thing. So if you feel like an imposter, good for you. It's a great sign.
I agree. And then even when we're dealing with the imposter syndrome, maybe moving a little bit past that, then it kind of brings us into the shirtless Brad Pitt talk. So, and you nailed it with that analogy, Ash. I was so guilty of that. And I'm going to let you expand on. I was so guilty of that because I was hoping that people would just come to me. I'm just going to sit back here. And now I'm like, you know what? I'll fix you. You want me to fix you? You go. I'll do it. I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't sit back and wait for people. So you have to expand on the shirtless Brad Pitt analogy.
I just love that Brad Pitt is now in my book. Shirtless, as it were. I've made that happen.
Yeah. We love you for it. Thank you.
I gotta send a copy to him. What am I thinking?
Yeah. Hello.
Brad, you're helping me make my points eloquently. Thank you. So the reason why we talk about that, because it stems from imposter syndrome. Now you've got to sell an idea. And it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or an employee, you've got to sell your ideas in some way, shape, or form. And so selling makes us get all angsty, especially as women. We're very used to being the givers. That's the narrative around being a woman. If someone compliments a mother, for example, it's about how selfless she is. And she gave everything to those kids, for example.
Right.
But that's what we're taught we're supposed to do. So the act of taking is terrifying. It makes us feel like we're being bad people, bad women, bad friends, whatever. And that's what happens when you go to sell an idea. You have to ask for something in exchange for that idea. Usually it's in the form of financial compensation. So Brad Pitt comes into play because so many of us are afraid to tell the world about our movie, to tell the world about the thing that we've created, this business that we've launched, this idea that we have. We're nervous because we don't want to bother people. And we don't want to seem, like we're self-important, right? And like, oh, who is she? We don't want the spotlight on us. But I laugh because I always think about the fact that even Brad Pitt has to promote his own movies, right? When he's doing a movie, it's not like no one knows about it and he just, mums the word. He's out there, he's doing interviews, much like this one. He's, there's big press releases, there's trailers, there's lots of fun things leading up to the big day. Then there's the big day. And so even Brad Pitt has to tell the world about his movie. But the thing is, Brad Pitt is not sitting in shame with that. He's really excited to tell you about his movie. And so it's useful to consider, what if the world was thrilled to hear from you? What if they were? And would it change your approach if you assumed that you were good enough to be received and everyone was thrilled to get your email or hear about your promotion the way that they would, anytime their favorite artist comes out with a new album or their author, comes out with a new book? None of us are like, oh, fuck that girl. She came out with a new book. We're thrilled. We're like, oh, I can't wait to go get it.
Exactly.
And so it's just helpful to remember next time you're suffering through that, there are people out there who will be so, so overjoyed that you have stepped out and offered to help them.
There always are. There's always followers for what you do, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this interview, I read every single one of your emails. So if I'm following you, then there's somebody else following me in that same kind of fervor, with that same kind of love and attention. So yeah, I think that's really important for people to keep in mind. You have something to give to people. You got to go give it and not sit back.
Well, the nice thing about following the 50% of the population hating you rule is that it strengthens considerably the other 50% who love you will really love you. That is the key to everything modern marketing, modern business building, modern anything, storytelling, because there's a lot of people who you could take or leave. But when you focus on making 50% of the population hate you, the other 50% will not just kind of be indifferent. They're then going to love you. And that gives you leverage. That means that you have this trust with them. You've built this relationship that feels strong as steel because they really are into who you are and what you're doing and the way that you show up just as you. That is magnetic, my friends. People showing up and just being themselves and being their most enthusiastic, crazy, whatever, honest, open, sincere, none of this professional BS. It's magnetic. It's so attractive. And that other 50% will love you for it. And that's an opportunity.
Exactly. And you taught me really over the years to just be myself, because yes, I'm in the health profession, the medical profession, that world, but I just can't be that. You're going to see me be goofy on camera and make jokes. And I had somebody comment that they actually laugh when they're watching. I'm like, good, because that's what you're supposed to do. This isn't supposed to be so serious. And I think, I mean, you give that message, you give it in the book. That's why everybody needs to read it, because it's like, just be yourself. Don't try to be that person that while your imposter syndrome is kicking in, you're saying, oh, I'm not like that person. You don't have to be. Just be yourself.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. I mean, being yourself is the greatest advantage you will ever have. I had to learn that the hard way though, right? Like coming from the rural trailer park and trying so hard for the first 25 years of my life to fit in with everybody in the big city to a T, didn't want to do anything wrong. If you don't do anything wrong, nothing bad will ever happen to you, kind of thing. And following this mold because I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want anyone to pity me. I didn't want to seem different. I wanted them to think I was just like any other Philadelphia mainline girl who had grown up in a big old house and had regular parents with middle-class jobs and whatever. And that was when I discovered that normal really was the most disappointing thing that ever happened to me. And it wasn't until I started using my creativity in the workplace when I realized how valuable it was. I started being rewarded for it, and people noticed me because I wasn't just kind of like moving among the masses in a black suit and serious face with serious pantyhose on.
Yep, exactly. Yep, just moving through. And you get to hear all these stories in Ash's book too. So we're giving teasers right now, but they're all in there. So
I mean, I guess I am wearing black still, like, but
that's okay. It's not a suit.
I have a middle finger key. Are you dying right now?
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I found these online. I was like, I'm going to buy these and make them into necklaces. And you can actually have them cut into real keys. But I think I'm just going to leave it like that.
I love it. I love it. Nothing like wearing your brand. Oh my God.
I know. I'm sure I'll get some looks on the street. I probably shouldn't wander into any churches, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, they might not even figure out what it is. So
true. Until I start replacing all the Bibles with my book.
Oh my God. Yeah. Please do. They'll go to all the singing ones, they'll go to sing a song and they'll.
I mean, sorry, someone else is probably now going to email you about this comment.
I hope so. If I am that lucky.
Gosh, I'm telling you what, Amie, like I'm really upset about the fact that I look like death walking in my lighting, and you just look like this glowy, beautiful, like LA angel who just like stepped out of a cloud.
It's called 2 box lights and a ring light.
So. Like, I don't know. I look green here. I'm sorry for my face, everybody.
Oh, Ash, you look beautiful. You always do. Please.
Chugging.
Always do.
I don't know what's come over me. I can't. I'm thirsty.
No, drink away. No, I do want to ask you this. So you and I have talked before. You have hypothyroidism. And a lot of people that are watching this, that follow me, they all have it too. They struggle with. So, as we know, that can crush your energy. How did you take care of yourself through the craziness of writing the book, launching the book? Now you're doing 1 million interviews a day. How are you taking care of yourself?
My only life hack for that is the 3 hours a day that I spend first thing in the morning writing for nobody but myself. Since I'm a writer, that's kind of what I do. It's when I'm the most alert on, like I'm like a genius at 5 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock, I know nothing. I'm dead. So I've been really strict with myself and with other people and putting boundaries around those 3 hours of my day. Every day, I don't answer emails. I don't talk to my assistant or anybody in my company. They know it. Don't bother me then, because you ain't getting an answer. And that's how I'm able to do the important work that really matters to me consistently and every single day that I need to. And then the rest of the day I keep, I just plan it out that way. The other stuff.
Yeah, you have to set those boundaries.
Yeah. The other stuff I keep, later, the things that aren't so mentally draining that I can kind of do with my eyes closed here and there.
Very fun. Yeah. Well, no, thank you. Because I was wondering about that. Like I thought you must be running yourself into the ground at this point. So I wanted to ask you at least one health question and how you take care of yourself. So
really, you know what it is? This work pumps me up so much though. I mean, like I've been talking to people all over the world for this book launch and I'm not fatigued by it one bit. I'm loving it. We're having a blast.
You're doing what you love to do. There's the message. Find the passion and do it. So it brings me to this quote. I really wanted to read this quote for people. This is right out of your book. Why people won't start or they can't start. So you say in your book, starting, I'm convinced, is what separates the victims from the victors. Plans, overrated. Bravery, overglorified. In my experience, being ready isn't a condition for success. Not being ready and doing it anyways is. So, and there it circles back again to everything that we've been saying. Do what you're passionate about. You won't get tired through the day and hate your life, but you have to start. You got to start.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with one of my dearest friends, Chelsea, just the other day. Chelsea's from the city of Boston. She was an engineer until the age of 35 when she was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. She quit and went to pastry school to study that, actually legitimately got certified and, graduated in a couple of years, ended up going to Costa Rica to visit a vanilla farm, and then fell in love with the country of Costa Rica. So we spend half the year in Costa Rica, which is why I know her. 10 years later, she's like the premier, wedding cake bakery in all of the country. And someone said to her recently, well, Chelsea, like, how do you feel comfortable taking someone's money to make a cake that you've never made before? I mean, some people ask for some extravagant, crazy things. And she just was kind of like, well, I mean, I might not know how to make it now, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. And it prompted a conversation around kind of the two camps of thought around people who do trust themselves to figure it out as they go, and the other camp who really feel the necessary urge to have it all planned out and know exactly how it's going to shake down before they start. And I think that the latter is difficult because while they're planning, for 2 years, somebody else is getting better.
Yep.
And I really encourage you. It doesn't matter where you start. Don't start at the beginning. Forget the beginning. Forget having it all in order. Forget knowing what you're doing. Forget it. Just start somewhere. Like, doesn't matter where you start. Just get started. You will get that momentum and you're going to get that traction. You're going to get that excitement, and it's going to carry you through to figure it out. Even if you have the best laid plans, you are going to end up tweaking them anyway. I've done that 1,000 times thinking, okay, this time I'm going to be a planner.
Yep. No. Yep. And as women, we like to plan, but sometimes planning will, what is it? Analysis by paralysis by analysis. Yeah.
Yes. I really encourage you. Pick somewhere, whatever is the most exciting thing for you of the whole process of whatever you're thinking about doing, whatever you're most curious about, and just start there. Jump in. Who cares if you have a logo? Who cares if you don't know what your color palette is or what the name of it is, or if you don't have a website? I mean, literally, I could turn around today and I'm sure sell one of my neighbors something if I felt like it. I don't need a website. You don't need anything. You just need to have an idea and be willing to work from there.
Exactly. And for the record, I don't know my color palette at all. I've been asked that many times. I'm not quite sure what it is.
We just changed to pink because of the book.
I know. This is the closest to pink as I got.
I was not a pink girl. Sweater. I was going to do it for you. And then I was like, oh, I kind of have this like rusty eye thing on it. And I didn't know if it went.
It clashed and yeah.
I don't know how to do color. I can't do pink. I fought Penguin Random House on this for the first month because I was like, you guys, you can't give me a pink book. I swear TMF readers will revolt. They know that I'm not a pink person. And I always pictured like a froofy little dog. And they were like, no, we're going to make it like a hot, cool magenta pink.
Yeah.
And if I really fought them. And then when I saw it, I was like, all right, I think I like it.
It's kind of perfect. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
It is. Because you got the black, the badass black too. So it's just, I love it.
Yeah. It turned out really good. But I'm telling you, I did not expect it. At first I was like, oh, pink. This is not a soft book.
No, it's not soft. It's kind of badass though. I love it.
Thank you.
And in the comments section, we're posting all the links to get this book from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere that books are sold. Target, everywhere that books are sold, you can get Ash's book, The Middle Finger Project. So
product on Target's website right now. It's so cool.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So Thank
One
you.
last question for you, Ash. You have to end with this. The hot dog theory of money. Give us that.
I love that one because A, hot dogs are hysterical, and B, they simplify the act of taking money, which we started to talk about a little bit ago. The hot dog theory of money goes like this. If you were a vendor on the Jersey Shore and you were selling hot dogs and some guy came up to you and was like, hey, buddy, how much for a hot dog? You are going to look at him and you're going to be like, $2.75, bro, or whatever. You are not going to look at him and start hemming and hawing and thinking, oh gosh, well, for you, I could offer you a 10% discount, or I don't know. Well, did you have a number in mind? Did you have a budget? And all the things that we do when we are setting out to sell ourselves. We have all those conversations. We tell people how much they can afford before they've even told us. We make decisions for other people about their money story. But if you looked at what you're selling as simple and straightforward as a hot dog, it uncomplicates all of that, because we know that, okay, the cost of a hot dog is the cost of a hot dog for a reason. You've got actual production. You've got to package the hot dogs. You got to deliver the hot dogs. Now you're paying for space to store the hot dogs. You've got to build in profit margins. You would understand if you were a vendor sitting there that you're not doing that for your health. There's got to be profit built in. And so similarly, when you're selling yourself or anything that you are selling, the price is the price for an equally valid reason. And you can't forget to build in your profits, because otherwise you're running a nonprofit. So think about it as a hot dog. It becomes a delightful thing. Hey, yes, this is what I do, and here's how much it costs. Would you like one?
Exactly. And we've all done it. So even reading the hot dog theory of money, listening to you explain it too, again, I just cringe because we've all been there. Any entrepreneur that's watching this, which are many, we've all been there. So we go, oh, I offered that discount and payment plan and 10% off and 20%. We've all done it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Sometimes just showing up with your own enthusiasm for what you're doing and letting that be enough. It's a really important exercise to let yourself do and just sit in that moment. And really, if you said to someone without all the nerves around it, but if you said, hey, Amie, I'm starting this new service. I am so excited about it. I think you will love it. Here's what it is. Here's how much it costs. Do you want it? Like, do you want to be my first client? Get excited about it. And it transfers, people get excited with you. It doesn't have to be the serious. Okay, Amie, so, well, here's what I was thinking. Just have fun with it, man. And it everything falls into place a little bit more. You feel more at ease. The transactions go at ease. And here's how I can help. And here's how much it costs. Memorize those lines.
Exactly. Oh, that's so true. I love that. And I'm telling you, anyone that reads this book, they're going to get that kick in the pants they need. You're just going to. You need to read the book. You're going to get a kick in the ass, because we've all been there. And I think and by no means am I here, but I'm here. And I've passed that point enough to say, oh yeah, I do remember back then. I do remember when I had imposter syndrome. I remember which still creeps up. I remember when I would give discounts and justify my price. And now it's like, now that you're on the other side, people who are on the other side can look back and go, oh, thank God I've grown. But then we want to take the people that are there and take their hand and guide them along. And that's what you're doing. You're taking the people that are in the beginning going, I don't know, Ash. I don't know if I can do this. And you're saying, yes, you fucking can. Shut up and do it.
Yes. And it's also important to note that it doesn't even matter how much you charge. If someone is willing and able to give you that money, it's because they believe that you are worth it. Otherwise, they would not be giving you that money. So maybe trust them a little bit, that they know what they're doing and they're able to accurately and objectively evaluate you and your particular value to them and their particular situation, what they need. Like, you have not fooled anybody into giving you the money. They know exactly what they're doing.
I once had a client, this is like 10 years ago, actually tell me to raise my prices. That was eye-opening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best when that happens, because then you know.
You just know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pricing is all subjective. Everything's subjective about it. but test it, test it. See what feels good. Raise your prices. See what happens. Run some tests on it. I mean, gosh, nothing is set in stone. And if it doesn't work and it's not converting well, then lower them again.
Yeah, exactly. And play with it and just start. Quit the job that you hate and do something that lights you up.
Yes. Also,
bottom line. Yeah.
Do that. Like,
just start.
approach your life as if it were a chemistry experiment and go play a little bit. Have some fun. Trial and error. Whether you're starting or figuring out your pricing, it's trial and error. Yeah. Nothing is wrong with you. I get that a lot from women too, who are like, oh, but I just feel so flaky and flighty. Like I've tried so many different things and nothing really is working out for me. And what's wrong with me? And gosh, nothing is wrong with you. Something is wrong with the thing you tried. It just wasn't in alignment. That's cool. Move on to the next one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Ash, your book, I think people are going to read it and see how you're relatable, you're vulnerable, you're funny at the same time, but we get a glimpse inside of everything that you've dealt with, all of the crazy stories. I know a ton of people have asked you about the Polaroid story, but I'm not. I'm going to let people read that in the book. It's a good one. It's a good one. So just Ash took a Polaroid of herself. I'm leaving it at that. Use your imagination and read the book. Yeah. Shouldn't have been taking that photo. Exactly. See, now people are curious. They're like, what? Should not have been taking that photo. What? Yep. Yes. Thank you so much, Amie. Thanks for everyone for being here, for hanging out with us to the end. You guys are rock stars. Get the book. Really, thank you so much for mentioning the book, for talking about the book with me. I just love it. It's so cool to be able to have conversations with people around the world that I would never be able to do all by myself. But that's what a book is, right? It's the start of a conversation. So it's been really great to hear from everybody tagging me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and reading it and having ideas and sparking ideas. It's the best part of it. It genuinely feels like now I'm contributing something meaningful, as opposed to just like, sending out these old white binders that I used to send out in my corporate job. Oh, such a big change. Such a big change. And you have to let me know how many little ladies email you saying that they use this book for their book club. Oh, I want to know those numbers. That'll be fun. A couple of people already have asked about the book club, but I don't think they were old ladies. But I kind of hope that they show up. Yeah, that'd be great. I know. That's what I'm hoping. Lots of book club reading. This month we're reading The Middle Finger Project. Yeah, sometimes people still ask me like, oh, well, what's this book you wrote? I overheard you talking about it or whatever. When I say the name, depending on who they are, it's like, wow, that's awesome. Or like, oh my God, you're psycho. Yeah. Yep. It all depends on your audience, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Exactly. Yes. You've done great. Thank you, Ash. We're going to post the links so you guys can go on, order her book, and we're just going to promote the hell out of it. So thank you. Here's to big sales. Yes. Here's to big sales and big lives and big passions. Big changes. Big changes in everybody's lives. So yes. There you go. Big butts. Those are very in these days. Yep. Oh, Ash, thank you so much for jumping on once again. Totally. My pleasure. Yay! And you and I will be talking soon. Yeah, man. You are the best. Thank you so much, Amie. You're welcome. I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye.